Hello everyone and welcome to another one of my PC build videos. Today I will be starting by taking this X370 motherboard out of its box. Yep, X370. No matter if you are an AMD fanboy or not, it's undeniable they have really kicked it out of the park with AM4. As of the publishing of this video, the 5700 X3D processor just launched, a simply mind-boggling 8 years after the socket was first introduced. With a little help from users holding their feet to the fire, that is. The CPU used today is a 3700X, which is an 8-core 16-thread Zen 2 very well balanced chip that is very strong for productivity and downright awesome for mid-range gaming. The reason it's so good is because it is closely related to both the PlayStation and Xbox processors in the latest generation consoles, so most games are sort of naturally optimized for this architecture. Are there newer Ryzens better? Yeah, of course. Will a 5800X be an optional upgrade? Sure. And will an X3D chip be a massive upgrade? Absolutely. But when paired with the GPU we'll be using today, the differences will be negligible. The reason I chose this motherboard, if I'm being honest, is because I decided to save a buck on the RAM and I'm using two different kits that together will run a 3200 Mbps, so very close to the sweet spot for this generation of Ryzen. Not to mention having 32GB is fast becoming necessary. Not quite yet in my opinion, 16 gigs is still perfectly viable, but by the end of this year I'm expecting there to be there or thereabouts. If I now start explaining why older X370 chipset motherboard is better than a 2022 produced A520 for memory performance, it's going to take me the whole video, but suffice it to say that it runs perfectly. About the time I was trying to crack every toddler's nightmare, the sealed box, I was lamenting the fact that I have a fair few water coolers and none of them have AM4 brackets. I've since remedied that by ordering a bunch from China, but they will take a while to get here, so I'm stuck telling you about air cooling. Until I noticed something. This motherboard has support for AM3 fixing points, so basically this means that there is going to be water cooling just with an AM3 bracket. And boy, I didn't even skimp on it with a 240mm H100i GT cooler that is frankly superb for the job at hand, and after a bit of soul searching about whether I should put the logo upside down to better hide the cable or right side up and have a more visible cable, we need to go to the main event, the installation of the yet unnamed GPU. But let's be honest, you probably read the title of the video, so you know exactly what is coming. This single fan RTX 3060 is good. I mean, it's as good as any other 12GB variant of the 3060. The only slight drawback compared to something hilariously overkill like a Strix card is the fact that it's a bit noisier, with the single fan having to work a tad bit overtime to keep the temperature under 76°C. Hotspot is great as well, and I decided that there is no reason to repaste the card because cooling is as good as the day it left the factory. Now, I must admit I wasn't the biggest fan of 3060s when they came out because I felt that the raster performance wasn't quite cutting it, but then again, last time I reviewed this, DLSS 2 wasn't even out, so let's find out together if it has been substantially improved or not. But before that, here are some pictures of the final product. In heaven, the answer to my previous question is no, it has not improved at all, and that is not surprising. This benchmark is around since the time of dinosaurs, so I see no reason why Nvidia would improve its drivers to deal with these outdated requirements. But then again, my problem with the 3060 12GB was never with its performance per se, which incidentally I think it's great for this card class. My problem was with the price. Over £320 for a 60 class card, at RRP no less, is just too much in my opinion. This should have always been a sub £270 price card. Fast forward a few years and the end of the crypto bubble, and this card is now going on the used market for much more reasonable prices, so I'm gonna go look at it again through that lens. I forgot to record 3D Mark, so today we'll dive right into the esports game, starting with Rocket League that has a very strong showing with about 348 FPS on average and outstanding 1% and 0.1% lows. Ignore any status please in today's video, they're all coming from my less than perfect capture card. None of them were present in any game. I am sure that this card has been heavily optimized for Fortnite. It makes sense after all considering its top spot in gamers' preference according to the Steam hardware survey these days, and it shows with max settings it holds up with over 60 FPS no problem. Up until late last year I would have instinctively reached for a 2060 or 5700 XT as the go-to reasonably priced mid-ranger, but I think with only about a £40 gap between those two and the 3060, the 3060 now makes a lot more sense. And the reason it makes a lot more sense is perfectly illustrated by Horizon Zero Dawn. The performance from this card is considerably better compared to a 2060, but more importantly having double the VRAM does provide a good dose of confidence it won't be obsolete very quickly. And no, it's not really a perfect representation to take the GPU memory usage number out of context, as you can't tell what is reserved and what is actively used, but the 10GB VRAM usage, that is a lot more than a 2060 can provide. It also kinda embarrasses a technically more powerful RX 5700 XT by beating it by 12 FPS when both are using the respective upscaling technology set to their highest standard. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is a title I expect this 3060 to do very well in, as it is an Nvidia sponsored title. What I've done is I have turned off ray tracing because in this game it is only used for shadows, and to be fair the visual differences are minimal for the performance hit it entails. So with everything else set to ultra, we get a really nice 122 FPS on average. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, with everything turned on and FSR, returned a mighty 81 FPS at Ultra. Nowadays this game is much better optimized than it used to be, but honestly still kinda sucky when it comes to resource utilization, hence why 81 FPS at Ultra is actually a great result given it is an exploration game where gorgeous vistas are far more important than frame perfect combat. Would I have preferred 120 FPS? Yes. Would it have made a big difference? Well, not really. I started off by running Farcry with FSR on at ultra quality, but when I saw the GPU utilization it became clear that again the game is incredibly fussy with everything else, so I turned it off. Without the FSR, we went from 79 FPS on average to 72 FPS, but with much higher GPU usage. Considering the visual presentation is almost identical, probably best to just leave FSR on. Unfortunately, control is not a valid benchmark this time around. For whatever reason, even though VSync was disabled, it re-enabled itself, so the 60 FPS you are seeing is entirely artificially limited. I tried tinkering with things to get them working, but I think it's some sort of driver bug that would probably sort itself out with a game update or a driver update. It did not behave this way until I updated the GPU driver. Still looks great, mind you. And lastly for today, it's Cyberpunk with ultra ray tracing and DLSS set to auto. It's probably going to run at balance most of the time, but it looks great, and 49 FPS on average with all the bells and whistles on, it's a really good result. The 30 series is so much better ray tracing than the 20 series there really isn't any competition. A 2060 will have absolutely no chance what that card require medium settings to return a similar frame rate in this title. Not to mention the equivalently priced RX 5700 XT doesn't even support ray tracing. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and see you in the next one.